make sure that's happening. And if there's any reason that you're feeling challenged, just please take care of yourself and we'll come back together. And also know that you can help us cultivate the energy in the space by tuning in with your whole self. And as much as possible, closing tabs and other things that may be viewed as a distraction. And so that is always welcome to allow for a singular focus here. And lastly, remember bodhicitta. And in the Buddhist cosmology, this is, the ability to please uphold the inherent dignity of all of us, including yourself, of all beings, even as we center those most affected by systemic oppression at this time. And so if you're staying on, you're agreeing to these commitments. And you're welcome to use your emojis, your icons at the bottom. If you want to put a thumbs up, that's there. Okay. And I'll pass it over to you now. Okay. Thank you again, Sangha.
Hi. I'm changing my view so I can get a look at you. My name is Kate Johnson. I'm one of the co-directors here at Buddhist Peace Fellowship and one of the conveners of this event today. And I want to give you a little idea of kind of where we're going here, the arc of our practice, arc of our convening. I'm going to start by offering some acknowledgements and a brief, about 10-minute meditation. Then I'll welcome and introduce our guests, Sami, Awad, Kazu, Haga, and Miki, Kashtan, and turn it over to them for some minutes so they can share some of their perspectives and practices around practices around nonviolence in times like these. And then we wanted to leave ample time to hear from you, to have Miki and Kazu and Sami answer questions. And so we'll have a good, we think, half hour at the end of this time to hear from each of you. So if you do have questions that arise as you're hearing them or ones that you brought, please know that you'll have time to voice them either in the chat or if you'd like to come off mute. And I also just want to say, yeah, just deep gratitude that so many of you are here today. Your time is precious, I'm sure. There are many things that you could be doing in this moment, many things that we all could be doing, and glad to see you here and to take a breath with you today. So I want to start with these acknowledgements that we like to offer here at Buddhist Peace Fellowship, really inspired by one of our beloved teachers in the Western Buddhist community, Sebene Selassie. Some of you might know Sebene in her book, You Belong. She talks about 3 acknowledgements that she does before her meditation practice to kind of ground and appropriately honor land and lineage. So I'll talk it through. It's a little, you don't have to close your eyes. It's just kind of a contemplation for you, ways to direct our attention as we begin. And I'd like to start by acknowledging the land itself, the physical land, the earth element, and tuning my awareness to the way in which our bodies can rest on this earth, the way that the earth connects all of us. And in addition, the spot on the earth where I am at this moment is the land of the Lenape people. It feels particularly important to name that this moment. That the land where I live, Turtle Island, was a site of a horrific genocide, one that happened in the past, and that we are currently working to correct. And that the indigenous people of this land are still here and will always be here. And so I encourage you to, as you kind of settle into your space and turn your attention to this event, to remember and to honor with your awareness the indigenous people of the land that you're on. And to also bring to mind the land where your people are from, if you know it. Whether you consider it the whole earth or a specific part of the land. bring your awareness to that land, and also the way that the way that that land lives in your body at this moment. Feels good to, in addition, acknowledge as a second acknowledgement our Asian Buddhist ancestors. And one of the violences that we've experienced here in the West is the uh, really erasure of the Asian roots of our Buddhist practice, as well as the erasure of the rich history of Asian and Asian American engaged Buddhist leaders and communities, both in Asia and here in the US, where Buddhist Peace Fellowship is located. So that's a second acknowledgement. This is a practice that has roots in Asia, and I hope to honor the ancestors of, as a non-Asian Buddhist practitioner, I hope to honor the ancestors of that land as if they were my own. And finally, an invitation for all of us to acknowledge our own ancestors, Buddhist or otherwise. Each of us comes here with ancestral wisdom, with ancestors that we are related to by blood, with ancestors that we are related to in spirit, and an invitation to really bring those ancestors here. I hope our work together today makes them proud. So I'll move now into a brief meditation. And yeah, invitation to do what you'd like to do with your body to feel comfortable meditating. You can turn off your camera if it feels better. You can sit, you can lie down, you might stand or move if you like. And certainly you don't have to meditate, like there's no surveillance. We're not surveilling your house. So you could do whatever feels good for you. The invitation is to do something that helps you really land here, to gather and connect and collect your mind and heart all in one place at one time. And if it works for you, you could close your eyes or just look away from the screen and take a couple deep breaths. And we'll invite a soft landing into your practice today. So even if you just sit and pause for a few moments, it's good. And if it's helpful, you might start to foreground the experience of your physical body in this moment, the places where your feet are touching the floor, your hands touching your legs, seat touching your chair, breath moving in and out of your body. And if it feels okay, turn your awareness to your heart. Using your breath to make more space and softness in your heart space. As I was mentioning ancestors, it occurred to me that we have so many more ancestors now than we had a few weeks ago. And that does something to the heart to be a part of and to witness so much loss, so much suffering. And that part of the tragedy of this time is that for many of us, we've hardly had a chance to feel before we have to respond. So if it's possible, if it feels safe enough in this moment to let what's in your heart be big, and to let your awareness be even bigger. Let your connection to this earth be big. Let your connection to your wisest and brightest ancestors be big, and to all the beings who you move shoulder to shoulder with in this life. And then as you're ready, just not needing to pull your awareness away from any of those beings, from your body, but just taking another few deeper breaths, um, preparing to transition into the rest of our work here together today. Um, Thank you for pausing with me. Thank you for beginning slow and really welcoming each of you and everything that you're bringing here today. So I'd love to start by sharing a little bit about the purpose of this event as I understand it, and maybe a tiny bit about Buddhist Peace Fellowship for those of you who are um, new to us. We're called Buddhist Peace Fellowship, so as you can imagine, peace is something we think about and talk about a lot. It was um, founding intention of this organization to promote and to learn about and to practice nonviolence as ahimsa, which is one of the Buddhist precepts, the intention not to harm. And in this time, as a result of many conversations, some public, some private, we felt that there was a lot of confusion about violence and nonviolence in our Western Buddhist community, in a way that was starting to contribute to feelings of stuckness and immobility. And so the purpose is really to hear a few different views, some from some really respected, brilliant folks, about their experiences in the practice of nonviolence, and to help us have this conversation in a way that provides space that allows us to hold complexity, to hold nuance, um, and to really explore what we each mean by nonviolence and violence and how to practice it. there was an understanding, a feeling that in addition to the, very real, very physical war that's occurring at this very moment, there is also a bit of a war on words occurring, and inversion in terms of, or reversal in terms of the language that we're using to describe violence and nonviolence, right? There was, ways in which um, resistance to violence was immediately being called violent, or aggression was being called self-defense. And so part of the desire here is also to learn in a way that provides each of us some clarity about what we are witnessing, and also about how we each might respond based on our current location and skills and abilities and leverage points for change. Um, some of the questions that we were holding when we reached out to our speakers today were, is it possible to interrupt apartheid and genocide through nonviolent resistance? Is there a place for what we call principled use of force, or resisting violence using the least harm possible in the practice of ahimsa? So we will hopefully touch on these and some more some questions from you as I turn it over to our speakers today. And I'd love to, you'll see their bios on the event page, but just to introduce all of them, and then I'll turn it over to our first guest, Sami Awad. Sami was inspired by his uncle Mubarak Awad's leadership in Palestinian nonviolent resistance, and founded the Holy Land Trust in 1998 to promote Palestinian nonviolent resistance to the Israeli occupation. Thank you, Sami, for being here. Kazu, Haga, a trainer and practitioner of nonviolence and restorative justice, is a core member of the Ahimsa Collective and the Fierce Vulnerability Network, and author of Healing Resistance, a radically different response to harm. And Miki Kashtan, who is a practical visionary pursuing a world that works for all, based on principles and practices rooted in feminist nonviolence. Miki is the seed founder of Nonviolent Global Liberation Community, and she is the author of 4 books and blogs at The Fearless Heart. So thank you each for being here. I'm going to turn it now over to Sami, and love to hear how you are today, what's on your mind in this field of nonviolence as a resistance to violence, or as a response to violence, and anything that you feel called to share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Thank you for this very heartwarming introduction to our time together today. And I'm very thankful for all the people that have joined us to be in this discussion, which I feel is very, very important at this time, as you said, as we are witnessing so much violence. And then witnessing, I would say personally also, so much feeling of not just hopelessness, but despair in a reality of really continuously asking myself, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I also want to start by acknowledging that even though the eyes of the world are towards Palestine, towards Gaza, specifically at this time, we must not ignore or bypass the reality that many communities, many nations around the world continue to live in, where there is violence continuously, where there are people that are being killed continuously in the name of identity, in the name of ideology, in the name of racism and discrimination, sexism towards them. We are living in a world where we are facing a global pandemic of violence. And yes, some are witnessing it and experiencing it in a harsh way than others, but we are all part of this world. And making us part of this world makes us also all responsible for what is happening. And so I acknowledge all the people that are suffering today in many, many parts of the world. When October 7th the news first came, it's one of those dates where I think, like many of us, you will always remember where you were and what you were doing on that day, especially for us who live in this land, Palestinians and Israelis. The first thought that came to my mind after I heard the news was, there goes Gaza. Gaza is going to be destroyed now. I fully understood that the response of the Israeli government and military was going to be so harsh that there was never going to be a chance for Gaza to survive the response. And it wasn't just about Hamas. It was about all of Gaza. The second thought that came to my mind was, we failed. All of us who have been engaged in peace work and nonviolence work, and I see so many people here in the audience that have spent a lot of time and energy and money and tears and blood coming to this land and helping. And that thought was, we failed. We were not able to do the things that we should have done, could have done to prevent this from happening. I'm being very, very honest here. I'm not here to create space where people feel inspired by me or anything, but the reality that I'm going through, this is my story that I've went through. I went home and the first thing I did was try to call my family in Gaza to see if there's any way that we could get them out. We were not able to get them out, and we still haven't been able to get them out. And then the question is, what do you do? What can I do? For me, it took me to a greater context of really understanding what nonviolence is about and how we in the global community of nonviolence, in a way, have become part, directly or not, intentionally or not, of the system that controls us. To see the level of support globally at the political level for Israel and what it's doing in Gaza. To understand that each one of us is a member of a nation or a community who has leaders in it that have given the green light, given the blessing, given justification to this unprecedented use of violence towards the people of Gaza. Made me begin to realize that what is needed more than ever is a real global movement of active, nonviolent resistance that needs to happen on every place, at every level, to try to dismantle these systems of oppression that are embedded in patriarchal structures that only have one aim, which is to control us, and every once in a while to give us some leeway of us engaging in some activities that we might see as opposing them, but under their watchful eye. What is happening here can happen anywhere. And specifically, I want to speak to those who live in the United States, who you think you are safe, who you think you are fine. You've already had several hints of experiences and examples where fascism can rise. And do not think that your government or even your constitution can protect you. These pieces of paper with ink written on them. Until we really begin to mobilize ourselves to really work hard to dismantle systems of patriarchy, we will be in this loop and we will move from nation to nation. These people, mainly men, are out for one thing: power, to create separation, to create fear in us. And we are all complicit in allowing them to happen when we don't resist. I like how you describe this nonviolence as what else. And it's really interesting how many people see nonviolence as being non-confrontational, nonviolence as being nice, nonviolence as being accepting, nonviolence as being open to different opinions. And for me, I have to say, I'm changing. If those things existed in me, I'm changing them. Nonviolence is about confronting. Nonviolence is about being angry. Nonviolence is about not tolerating, not creating space for fascism to exist in any way, shape, or form. Yes, nonviolence is also about understanding where this comes from. To understand that every action has something behind it that we need to also address. That there are trauma points that need to be healed in different communities. And as a Palestinian activist, I've been involved in this deep understanding of collective trauma healing work for many, many years, since my visit to Auschwitz over 15 years ago, to really begin to understand that there is a Jewish community that is traumatized, and there has been lack of healing for that community. But I also understand that when you bring this absolute trauma and absolute fear and combine it with absolute power, you create absolute disaster. And this is exactly what we are facing here. So my hope from this gathering and other gatherings is for resiliency and strength to be our focus and our guide, to understand that none of us are safe until all of us are safe. None of us can live in peace until all of us live in true peace. Yes, maybe at this time, there isn't much that I can do in terms of direct activism, but I know there is a future. There is a possibility of a future that we need to create. As we are talking, we know these leaders are meeting and trying to create the future they want. There is a future that we are responsible to create that has to be an alternative to what they want. And it's going to take us coming from that heart of love, that heart of unconditional love to all of us as humans, to create that future where we break these identities, break the separation, and create the sense of oneness together. Yeah, and with that, I think I'll move and give my dear brother and friend Kazu the stage to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sami, for your words and presence and taking the time out of what I can't imagine everything you're holding right now to be with us. Yeah, I just want to invite all of us who feel like might be supported by it to take one more deep breath. And in addition to the invitation for ongoing mindful breathing, I also want to request something from everyone on the call, which is grace. What does it mean to practice nonviolence in the midst of everything happening right now? I don't have an answer for that. I have some inklings of what it is that my heart is yearning for. I do know that I desperately want all people to be free. And I also know that none of us have done that before. None of us have lived in a world where all people are free. So none of us know how to do that work. And even those of us on this call may have different perspectives of what that means and how to get there. And so we're all here trying to figure it out, right? And so if I say something that you feel might be missing an important perspective, I probably am. And if I share something that might trigger confusion or pain in someone, please know that I'm deeply grieving that, and that I ask for your grace, because I guess I want all of us to trust that we're all here trying to figure out what liberation looks like. In 1968, a nonviolent activist and author named Barbara Demings wrote something that I just want to read for you all. She said, "With one hand, we say to one who is angry or to an oppressor or to an unjust system, stop what you are doing. I refuse to honor the role you are choosing to play. I refuse to obey you. I refuse to cooperate with your demands. I refuse to build the walls and the bombs. I refuse to pay for the guns. With this hand, I will even interfere with the wrong you are doing. I want to disrupt the easy pattern of your life. But then the advocate of nonviolence raises the other hand. It is raised outstretched, maybe with love and sympathy, maybe not, but always outstretched. With this hand, we say, I won't let go of you or cast you out of the human race. I have faith that you can make a better choice than you are making now, and I'll be here when you are ready. Like it or not, we are part of one another. My partner, Lee Tsen, is currently pregnant with our first child. And in the midst of that, we just went through a pretty intensive discernment process because we were considering going to Palestine together to do protective presence work in the West Bank. And my partner, Lee Tsen, was saying in this moment that, why does our child have more of a right to live than a child in Gaza right now? And we ultimately decided not to go, but in that process, when I pictured myself there, it was very clear to me that my role there would be to stand in defense of Palestinian people and their families and their lands and their safety. To me, nonviolence action right now looks like facing the state of Israel and IDF soldiers and Israeli settlers. And to make it clear that the civil rights movement was a movement for the liberation of Black people, and the Indian independence movement was for the liberation of Indian people. And so to me, nonviolent action right now is about a call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and ultimately the liberation of Palestinian people. But with the other hand, to be able to look an IDF soldier in the eye and to know that this person is probably 19 years old, is probably scared out of their minds, and have been indoctrinated from the moment that they were born to carry out a state policy that is rooted in trauma. Right? That Zionism is a story that grows out of trauma. It grows out of the story that Jewish people have been persecuted everywhere they've been, and that they are not safe anywhere unless they have their own state. I don't believe that's the case, but that's the story, right? And decisions made out of trauma are almost always unskillful and perpetuates harm. And so Israel's national policy in so many ways is rooted out of trauma. And so standing in defense of Palestinian people may feel like I might be taking a side, but if anything, I'm taking the side of life, right? Someone once said recently to me that it's not about taking a side, but about taking a stance. I want to share a couple of thoughts from a more of a Buddhist perspective. In Buddhism, talk about right view, which is one of the factors of the Eightfold Path. Right view, correct view, complete view, wholesome view, wise view. What is the right way to view the moment that we are in? And part of right view is about seeing this moment not as an independent moment, right? That this moment didn't happen in a vacuum, that this moment is interdependent with all moments that came before it and with moments that will come after it. So when we see this moment, are we seeing the karma of this moment? And like Sami said, that this moment didn't start on October 7th, right? Human Rights Watch was investigating the state of Israel for crimes against humanity in 2021. Before that, there was 75 years of Israeli colonization. Before that, there was British colonization. Before that, there was the Ottoman Empire, right? You oppress people long enough, and there's a way in which, to me, the question about is violence justified almost becomes irrelevant because violence becomes inevitable. And I think that's part of the right view of this moment, is seeing what led to this moment, right? And also knowing that right view is also about understanding, as Sami was also saying, that Zionism is also a worldview rooted in trauma. And another teaching from the Dharma that has been incredibly supportive to me these days is the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, talking about the difference between conventional or mundane reality and ultimate or absolute reality. conventional realm being the realm that we can see and touch and smell and taste, and ultimate reality being the realm that is beyond the senses. And our teacher Thich Nhat Hanh teaching us that even though we call the ultimate reality, it's not more true than the conventional reality. That part of right view is seeing both as 100% true and both happening equally at the same time, all the time. And so in the conventional reality, every life matters and every life is sacred. And in the ultimate reality, we are all specks of dust in an infinitely expansive universe. In the conventional reality, there's a child growing in my partner's belly right now. And God willing, that child will be born and will grow up and become their own person. And in the ultimate realm, there is no separation between child and mother. There is no separation between myself and my partner. There's no separation between myself and you all, because we are all deeply interdependent. And the teachings of Anatta says that there is no self that is outside of a deep interrelationship with all other beings. But in the conventional reality, we are separate. I am me, my partner is my partner. There are Israelis and Palestinians. And in the ultimate realm, their liberation is bound with each other. Right? In the conventional realm, there are oppressors and there are the oppressed. And in the ultimate realm, there is only oppression and the reality that oppression hurts everybody involved in that dynamic. In the conventional realm, there are systems that are preventing life and preventing belonging. And in the ultimate realm, there is nothing that exists outside of belonging, because the universe is structured in a way that we are all deeply interdependent from each other. There's nothing outside of that. And my friend Sujatha, who I was talking to recently, was talking about, what does nonviolence mean in a time when I believe that the idea of nation states in and of itself is a violent ideology, because it perpetuates the delusion of separation. And so when we talk about liberation of Palestinian people, what does that even mean when you believe that two-state solution, one-state solution, a state solution is a violent solution? So for me, liberation means all people beginning to understand that our freedom and liberation is tied to each other. But the conventional realm is more immediate, and there's more urgency in the conventional realm because time in the conventional realm moves in a linear way. And so we need to be acting in every way we can and disturbing the normalization of violence that is happening in Palestine right now, and invite all people off our meditation cushions and into the streets, because what is happening in the conventional realm is very real. But as we do that, to remember that there are also unseen realities where all people need healing and all people deserve healing and all people are capable of healing. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to continue to delve into this impossibly complex discussion, but really grateful to share time here with Sami and with Miki, who I will pass the mic to right now.
Thank you, Sami. Thank you, Kazu. Thank you, Kate, for having the courage to make this happen, and for everyone who's here. I want to take a moment to breathe before we start. I wanted to be last because I wanted to read from and with what was said before. And I'm really glad I did that, because without knowing it, Kazu gave me a way of making sense of the craziness of my experience, which is, it looks to me like I'm trying to live in ultimate reality within conventional reality. And that explains to me a lot of the struggles that I face. So I want to start from a fact that is in conventional reality, which is that I am a Jew born in Israel, lived in Israel until I was 27, and I left at 27 because I didn't want certain things to be done in my name. And I want to fast forward from there after 37 years of living in the US, where I no longer am. And after 4 years of vagabonding in different parts. Is there a problem?
Yeah, hi Miki. Your sound is really distorted, and so there's some access issues, and there's a little bit of an echo when you're speaking. We really want to be able to hear what you're saying.
I am at a loss because we did sound check before. Is it continuing?
Yeah, I'm wondering, let's see here. Are you using an external microphone?
I can double check.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Your sound was wonderful when we sound checked earlier.
Is this better?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is for me. Is there other comfort? Okay, great. I'm seeing some thumbs up. I apologize for interrupting. I just want to make sure we can
It's
capture
not a
you.
problem. Do I need to say anything again?
I think maybe starting, yeah, a couple sentences back, because it started to distort or have some interruption, maybe like 2 sentences in.
The part about me trying to live from ultimate reality came through. The part about me having left Israel didn't come through, came through. It's very difficult for me to reconstruct what I was saying.
Apologize.
There's no apology. It's technology sometimes plays games. I'm just wanting to refine my center. I think I will whatever I was trying to say, I will jump to the next thing, which is, it is extremely difficult at this time to be a Jew from Israel. There are many things going on that make it difficult, because while there is very intense and horrific violence done in my name, there are also calls for and cheering of violence against me. The two are not separate from each other. And I'm not even talking specifically about Hamas. I'm talking about university campuses in the US. I'm talking about demonstrations across the world. For me, the reality that we live in is the reality, and I really appreciate my friend Kit Miller, who used to be the director of the Gandhi Institute, who says that her perspective is that what is happening in Israel and Palestine is 2 oppressed groups that are pawns in larger imperial games, and that there's a very real power difference, which is obvious and clear. And it is still on a global scale 2 oppressed groups, 2 groups that come from histories of oppression. This is where I see it, and where the question of what nonviolence means begins to be complex. I am with Kazu about wanting to stop the state of Israel. I'm simultaneously wanting deep understanding, even though it's hard for me to understand. I want to understand why the overwhelming majority of the people in Israel support what the state of Israel is doing, which makes it very difficult for me to talk with them and to open my heart to them. And still I want to understand. So I want to talk about nonviolence at a different level from the level of action, because Gandhi, who I consider my deepest lineage, teaches us that nonviolence is in thought, word, and action, not only in action. And what does it mean at a time like this, and at any time, to embrace nonviolence, and with it, all the things that Kazu talked about, because nonviolence is about stubbornly insisting that ultimate reality is the ultimate reality, from within which we respond to, I always heard of it as relative reality, but maybe conventional reality is the current term. And one piece that I want to highlight within this is a very humbling question about what is ours to do, each of us and collectively, and where do we come from in doing it. So a few years ago, I wrote a whole article. I thought about it for 3 years. And the article is called, "Is Nonviolent Use of Force an Oxymoron?" And my conclusion was that it isn't. There is room for use of force. And if it's going to be principled, it needs to be rooted in love. And that seems like a very complex thing to uphold. How can use of force be rooted in love? And for me, where that love comes from is seeing the humanity, seeing the impossibility in certain contexts of finding paths forward that include active collaboration with everyone, because that is the alternative to use of force, is everyone collaborates. We are so far from that in what is happening now. My picture of how to stop this war is not real. Maybe it will be if enough people manage to find an organizational way to do it. My picture is to bring 100,000 women to the region to stand between the different groups of people so that the war will stop, because I don't believe that even governments will shoot at 100,000 women coming from all over the world, representing their allies and their enemies of all sides. And this may be a completely naive picture, and it's the one that I have. So the biggest piece for me is cultivating my consciousness. One of the high points of my life is a moment in which, after reading Alice Miller's book, For Your Own Good, I was able to have empathy for Hitler, who is the arch enemy of anyone Jewish. I was able to see the child that he was and what he had endured in order to become the person that he became. And yes, like with Sami, I see all of us as traumatized. And if we are going to find a different solution, we need to see all of us as people beyond any kind of either or, beyond right and wrong. Take a stance within seeing all of us as human, within grasping that there is no one who is out, not even the ones who are most ruling the world, and of whom I see Netanyahu as a puppet, even though he is wielding immense power right now in the region. I see him ultimately as a puppet. And still, he and Biden and whatever the names are of the people with the most power, they too are human like us. And yes, at the moment, liberation for them may seem off the range of possibility, which is why sometimes use of force may be needed. And still, what it means to use force with as much love as possible, with as little force as possible, and mourning that we actually find ourselves in that situation, that is an extremely difficult discipline. Nonviolence is a discipline. It requires rigor. And ultimately, my image is to create a field of love that is much wider than the patriarchal field, so that the patriarchal field could melt rather than to be smashed. Because if we try to smash the patriarchal field, we are actually using patriarchal means to create a non-patriarchal future. And that for me is a contradiction in terms. I have no idea anymore how much time I had or not had, but I think I will pause here and more will be revealed in questions with the audience. I just want to say that the combination of the difficulty that I came with in being a Jew from Israel in the current climate and the technological thing, I'm a bit thrown off, and I don't know that I completely found myself. And this is what life is. I made a commitment to be vulnerable and loving, and that's what I'm living in this moment. Thank you. Kate, I'm giving it back to you, right?
Yeah, I appear to have come up on the screen. So I'll just say that this is the time where we're moving into audience questions. And thank you each so much. I have already learned tremendously from you. Candy, should I go ahead and do the orientation, or would you like to?
Unmute myself. I'm happy to help with that. And bring my voice into the virtual room. Thank you, Kate. My name is Candy. My pronouns are her and she. Just wanted to share a couple of guidelines around our Q&A section for this afternoon or today. We are going to be inviting people to ask questions. So if you would like to come on screen and unmute, please raise your hand. Please also know that we will spotlight you and record your image and your voice at that time. Part of this is our commitment to community care and access. So anyone that needs to be able to speech read or access this video at a later time, that will make it more accessible to them. You are welcome to keep your video off as well. You are welcome to direct message any questions or ideas. You can do so privately or publicly. We will be opening up the chat. And if you are joining by phone, you press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute. So I will also be putting these prompts in the chat as well for a reminder. And that's it. Thank you so much, Kate, for hosting the Q&A.
My pleasure. I'm wondering if we could bring in Sami and Kazu and Miki into the spotlight. And you can each feel free to, the speakers may have questions for one of you individually, or you can see who it feels most inclined to answer. Let's start with a question from Fiona Tang. Can you unmute?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Hi. Oh, thank you so much for this conversation today. I took a lot away from everything that you all said. And a lot of it is really sitting with me. So thank you so much. I thought I had a fixed question when I came into this, and you all really actually helped me evolve the question. My question is about something that both Kazu and Miki touched on, and it feels like it's kind of contradictory to a topic on nonviolence. And so I wanted to preface by saying that I am a student of Buddhism. I am a student of its teachings, and understand that ahimsa and the practice of nonviolence is in our tradition, and it's something that I study and try to practice. And when I tried to apply that in this current moment with the genocide unfolding in Gaza, there's another part of me that struggles a lot. An activist part of me, the student of movements, struggles a lot because it understands that in the face of violent oppression, that armed resistance is a right and is, to your point, Kazu, inevitable. And so I've navigated the last couple of months with this tension in myself as I relate to the moment, as I relate to all of my communities, and there being lots of calls for nonviolence, and in my own body feeling this kind of right, again, in the face of violent oppression, this sort of right to armed resistance. So maybe, maybe it's a question around how do we sit with this tension on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis as we relate to the moment right now in Palestine. Yeah, that's my question.
So you want to go first or second? Thank you, Fiona, for the question. I think what I want to say is, I want to start by saying that at the deepest level, I don't think any of us have anything to offer the Palestinians that is a path that will actually care for their needs. Under the current circumstances, I don't see what they can do, which is why I'm understanding why violence is chosen. Because for me, violence is a response to there being no options for how to care for one's needs. So this is for me existential, not moral. I'm not addressing your question on the moral plane, I'm addressing it on the existential plane. For my little bit of understanding, the Palestinians have tried any number of things to find a way to respond to the situation, and all of these things have failed them. Not just the nonviolent things. It's not like the current violent, excuse me for needing to say it, pogrom on Jews in Israel actually helped them. The actual result of what they did is much more violence directed at them. I'm not blaming them for it. That is not the point. The point is, I don't see what is the path at the moment that can lead to any positive results for anyone. This is horrible. It hurts my tongue to say these words. And I think this is the reality. It's not like if they do violence, now they're going to have liberation. I don't know what to tell them because the world is set up in a way, like Sami said, with the patriarchal systems, where everything fails when we're trying to do liberation because there's no support for liberation in any kind of systemic way, only for separation, only for scarcity, only for powerlessness, only for extraction, only for exploitation, and different people and different groups are on different sides of it at different times. So that's where I'm coming from. So what I want to do is just mourn and 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 mourn, way beyond what we ever let ourselves do, to see what creativity and togetherness can come on the other side of it. Because what we need is something that has never been done before. Because all the tried and true are tried and false. That's my deepest conviction, and it's a tough, shitty one, because it's not a solution for anything. I don't have solutions. I don't even know if this is helpful.
Thank you, Miki. And I'll also just add, I'm not sure how to take the question of like, do people have a right to violence? Because I think in the ultimate realm, like even rights, even human rights are actually a figment of our human imagination. They don't exist in the cosmic realm, right? And I think whether or not people have a right to, people will choose violence, right? When they feel, one of my favorite definitions of violence comes from Marshall Rosenberg, who says, violence is the tragic expression of unmet needs. When people have a need to be heard, need for healing, need for release, and there's no healthy options available to them, they will release it onto somebody else. And that's the dynamic of violence. I will say that, violence can be effective at times in keeping you alive and keeping your community alive. That there's great value in that. But as I've said before, violence can never strengthen relationships. Violence can never bring healing. And so I think whether or not people have a right to violence, whether or not it can be effective, it can never heal relationships. And to me, nonviolence is about like whether violence happens or not, like on the other side of that, when healing needs to happen, what then? What are we going to do then? And I think that's the question of nonviolence is how we bring healing to our world.
I would like to hear from Fiona if our responses were helpful to you. You're muted.
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah, there's a lot for me to sit with there, and I definitely want to make time for others. There's lots of questions, but that was helpful for me. Thank you so much.
Sami, do you have anything to add before we go to some questions?
You're asking me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you have anything to add?
I just want to say one point which is important in the context that we are living in, and I've been living in for almost all my life. Palestinians are denied the right of resistance. It's not about violence or non-violence, and this is something that we need to understand. You know, it's a joke sometimes when I have people from the US or from Israel, why don't you Palestinians engage in non-violence? It'll get to you. We don't have the luxury, we don't have the choice. Resistance is what is being suppressed in us as Palestinians. And so if it's violence or non-violence, it is treated by that system as an attack on it, and they will dismantle us. Many Palestinians who were committed to non-violence and have been committed to non-violence have been killed. Many are in prison for their commitment to nonviolence. My uncle was deported because he committed to nonviolence. And so to understand when a system of oppression is that strong, any form of resistance is prevented, is denied, is seen even as a threat. And I would say nonviolence is even a greater threat than violence because of the things that Miki and Kazu talked about. But to understand that it is not a luxury for us to engage in nonviolence. It is resistance, and it is very harsh and very hard, and the response by that system, by the Israeli system, is very harsh towards us as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to another question from someone whose hand is raised. They'll come off mute, and then I'm also getting some questions in the chat, so I'll go back and forth for so transparency. Dylan Fairfax, would you like to come off mute?
Thank you. I'm just pausing with you, Sami, about that resistance is just even resistance is a luxury that you don't have, that is forced down. That is very sad for me, just really heartbreaking to even contemplate it. Thank you for letting me know that. And this is for Sami and Miki. Sami, you said there's a global pandemic of violence, but that's not you said, I now believe it's important to take a stand against fascism, something to that effect. And Miki, you said protective use of force is possible to do so with love, to be able to do that with love. And so my question was, what does this look like? What is it, And I guess at the same time that I heard you say, Miki, mourning is really what is necessary. I would like to think that something is possible to do. Is that possible? Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that while we who live in the land as Palestinians and Israelis who are opposing this injustice and occupation may feel our hands tied at this moment and cannot do anything, just because of the tremendous amount of violence that we are seeing and threats that we're experiencing, I feel it is a call for the global community to take action, for the global community to step out of the fear of not protesting against Israel and saying no to Israel. Before this happened a few months ago, I was talking to groups of Jewish American activists, and we were talking about how the Jewish community around the world, especially in the US, should actually begin to engage in BDS, not even to join the current BDS movement, the boycott, divestment, and sanction, but for Jews around the world to begin to say, we cannot allow this country to claim to be representing us anymore. And this is a big issue. Like Israel claims, Netanyahu claims every day, continuously, that he represents the global Jewish community, that if you're a Jew anywhere in the world, Israel is your home. And I think Jews around the world say, no, we refuse this. And we will begin to boycott. We will begin to call for sanctions against Israel. That will create a bigger effect, I feel, than anything can happen at this moment, when the global Jewish community begins to say, no, this is not what it's about. This is not the safe home that we have been seeking, a home that is built on the ruins and the bones of other communities and other nations. And so there is actions that can happen today. The world can stand up and say, no, boycott is a major nonviolent tool that can be used. And I would encourage people to begin to engage in it.
I want to say that there are groups of Jews that have been protesting and being arrested by the hundreds for protesting what is happening. So that is going on. And it's a tricky thing. What does it mean to protest against Israel? And how is that different from cheering what Hamas did? It's that walking that line is a complex line that is still there. In terms of what does it mean to use force with love? I have the example of, I'm not going to remember his name accurately, Bonhoeffer, I think was his name. He was a German theologian and a deep pacifist who concluded, out of his love for all, that the thing to do was to kill Hitler. He didn't succeed, but he tried to do it. And I don't remember exactly what happened to him. I think he may have been caught and executed. I don't know. But the point is that as a pacifist, he recognized that in order to shift the conditions in that moment, the best thing was to kill that one man. So even that I consider, within the context of how he thought about things, as nonviolent use of force. It isn't how much force you use. It is a real deep discernment with love, without reaction, without judgment, without separation of what is the minimal force possible to use. And how do you do that while honoring the humanity and dignity of all? I don't think we have many examples, because people so easily separate these two, as if any use of force by definition means that it's violence, and as if being nonviolent by definition means that you don't use force. And it reminds me of this thing that Martin Luther King says, that power and love have been separated from each other, and that what we need is to integrate them, that power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. So there is something that I think we are collectively working out, because within the context of the extreme violence that is happening in the world, just like Sami said, not only there, it's what is in the limelight, but it's happening all over the world. And some of it isn't war. Some of it is economic violence. Some of it is cultural violence. There's so many forms of violence. In the context of that, dialogue, collaboration, all the deeper tools of nonviolence are not enough to turn it around. We need more creative solutions, and I don't yet know what they are, but I am looking for the people to come together to do this work with.
you. Kazu, do you want to jump in, or shall we go to another question? Just don't want you to.
I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'd love to hear more voices.
Okay, great. Let's hear, actually, let me bring in a comment from the chat. So this is about the, it's for people who are familiar with nonviolence, and actually I don't know enough about this to know if this is true. There's a statement that nonviolent communication, in nonviolent communication, there's an importance of addressing the needs of both sides if there is more than one person involved in a conflict. And it says, ask if you could address the tension between this kind of expressing or attending to the needs of both sides, and also the principle within equity and justice of centering the needs of the most harmed. And how do you navigate that in this context? Is the question clear? Kazu, maybe you can jump in on this one. And
Sure, this is actually something I learned from Miki once a long time ago, is oftentimes I think it is important for us to acknowledge who is most directly being impacted by the harm and to center their voices. But at some point, it also becomes a question about who has capacity to be the person that might be able to offer the other side empathy first. And sometimes it's one side and sometimes it's the other. And so I think it is important for us to find some way to address the needs of both sides of any conflict, because otherwise one side is going to walk away feeling resentment and then the conflict is never really over, right? There's one of my teachers who's an incarcerated nonviolence trainer in Soledad prison once told me that resolving a conflict is about fixing issues, and reconciling a conflict is about repairing relationships. And I think if both sides' needs aren't addressed, you might be able to fix the issue and come up with like a 5-day ceasefire solution. But if both sides' needs aren't truly met, then it's only a matter of time before violence surfaces again. So at some point, we need to find solutions that address both sides' needs. And sometimes the way of getting there is to figure out who has more capacity as opposed to who's being most directly impacted. Because sometimes the side that's being most directly impacted actually has more capacity for practicing nonviolence than the other side.
I would like to add that we actually have examples, very chilling and difficult examples of what happens when an oppressed group wins a conflict and imposes a solution on a group that was previously oppressing, and where what Kazu just spoke about goes underground. That is part of how I explain World War II, is as a reaction to Versailles, and how I explain, and this I took not from me, this comes from Michelle Alexander, the Jim Crow laws as a reaction to Reconstruction. So there's something about imposing solutions on people without actually finding ways to support them in walking through the disorientation and the complete upside down of life that happen as a result of losing. There's something about finding a way to exit the win-lose that I think is essential if we're ever going to bring cycles of violence to an end. I think I'm just repeating what Kazu said in a slightly different way. Yeah, thank you.
Sami, do you have anything to add, or shall I go? No? Okay. I'll just add that as I'm hearing you talk, I'm like, wow, this is why we need spiritual practice, because what you're talking about is so challenging and requires so much inner architecture. Yeah, thank you. And I feel challenged. All right, let's go to Let's see if we can fit in two more comments. And so we'll have, I'll ask one person to speak, and then we'll have maybe one person from the panel, and then another comment, another one person, and then we'll close. Let's have Mariame, would you like to bring your voice in and unmute?
Hello, can you hear me? I'm a little bit sick. Okay, yes. I guess this is a comment, but I want response as well. My background is growing up in Muslim communities in the US, so I was very much around the issues of Palestine. It was something that people talked about quite a lot. And I've only really learned more about Israeli and Jewish perspectives later in life, so it's a little bit awkward for me to make this comment because on some level I feel like I'm not as educated as I'd like to be about it, but I did have this resistance in me when Kazu, when you were speaking about the story that justifies Zionism, the story about like, oh, like there's this idea that Jewish people have been kicked out of everywhere, and the only way to be safe is to have their own state. And while I do, you know, have divergence with that strategy of creating a state, I actually do believe that there has been quite a lot of persecution and of Jewish people as a group, even if individual Jews might be safe in one place, like Jews gathering as a group has been persecuted time and time again all over the world. And I really want that to be everyone's problem in a way, where I want us all to hold that as a part of the puzzle. I don't want that to be something that's foisted upon Palestinians to figure out, but I do want that to be part of the picture and not something that's just like, oh, they don't have real needs, they're just paranoid or something like that. Like I do think there's real needs. So I just wanted to bring that piece in. And I do see it as our responsibility, as if we're not directly involved, as intervening to hold more of the needs, because if there's not capacity for the people directly involved to hold it all, then I want us as kind of third parties or outside people to step forward to do that.
Yeah, Mariame, I'm really grateful to have a chance to share a little bit about that, because I think I might have misspoke a little bit. The reality, the historical reality that Jewish people have been oppressed and persecuted everywhere they've been all throughout the world is not a story. It is a reality, right? When I use the word story, what I meant is out of that reality, a story emerges that the only way Jewish people can be safe is to build a wall around a nation state that belongs only to them. To me, that is a story. It is, in NVC terms, it would be a strategy to meet a story, or to meet a need, right? That this one specific thing has to happen. We need to build walls to build a country that belongs just to us is the only way that we can be safe. That's the story that I was referring to. So hopefully that helps, and thank you for giving me a chance to clarify that.
Okay. Let's have Arnina. And that'll be our final question.
Kate, I want to be rude and ask, is it possible to extend by a few minutes?
It's possible for me. I don't know if it's possible for our whole team of ASL interpreters and others who are supporting this. But I hear you. There's more to be said here. I wish I could. It would be helpful for those who have not been able to ask your question or comment out loud. If you could post it in the chat, we'll keep the chat. We'll share the questions with the speakers, all of whom are writers and speakers. And my hope is that they may be able to address it in blog posts or podcasts or in other ways. And certainly we would love to host or support any of that. Thank you for your patience, Arnina. Please bring your voice in.
Okay, I'm a bit sick, so my voice is not fantastic. I want to bring for 1 minute a story that I think can be almost of grace, as Kazu you said, or Sami, I can't remember. I'm of Israel too. If you not notice, I have the same last name as Miki. It's because we happen to be sisters. And what I'm teaching out of nonviolent communication is the compass. And I had a conversation. I'm not in Israel because I am not enjoying what's happening, to say the least. And I had a conversation with a student of mine that I thought he wanted to consult about the course, but he wanted to consult how he can be in Gaza fighting and share with me. And this is what I want to share with you people. This is for me very, I don't know, it's a blessing given the craziness and the fact that Israel is fighting, which I'm not with, but I can see the protective use of force. What he told me that he hesitated for a very long time whether to join the fighting forces because he can choose. He couldn't find the answer in himself. So he decided to join so that he could teach his soldiers non-violent communication. So that they, when they do their shooting, think about the humanness in the other side, on the other side. And then he told me, when I see a young boy, he's in Gaza, okay? So I see a young boy, I don't kill him. So I said, how come you don't kill him? Like challenging him, and said, because I don't want to kill in vain. So I asked, what if he kills you? He says, okay, this is the price of nonviolence. So I wanted to bring that as another perspective. I was really moved by all that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We promised nuance and complexity, right? I think we have it. It is almost time to go, and would love to just ask Sami, Kazu, and Miki if you have any brief reflections as we close that you'd like to add.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. First, thank you for the space and everyone for being here. I just want to say from my end and speaking from my heart, there is not a cell in my body that can in any way justify any act of violence, no matter what it is. It's really that simple for me. There is no just war. There is no violence used in any way. The harming of any person, physically, spiritually, emotionally, is violence. And for me, I would rather die than to inflict that violence towards anybody. And if that's the cost, then that's the cost. I cannot accept any justification for violence at all. Thank you.
Miki used one of my favorite King quotes: power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. And I encourage, for those of us for whom love is easier, to try to practice and cultivate some power to stop the harm. And for those of us for whom power and activism is easier, to try to cultivate the love that is necessary to heal the harm. So that is my prayer. May we act in a way that mobilizes the power needed to stop the harm and cultivates the love necessary to heal it.
I want to just end by expressing love for Sami and to say publicly that my life many times is made easier because Sami exists and because we talk from time to time, and we are an island of sanity, and I hold our friendship as a model for what is possible. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much, speakers, for your lives, for your practices, and everyone here for your kind attention. You take good care as you go from here, and if you just hardly know what to say. I can tell you the things that we have going on at Buddhist Peace Fellowship, but you can easily look it up on our website. Sending you each off with lots of care. May you be protected, may you be connected. May you be free. May all beings be free.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, if you have open questions, please put them in the chat. We'll save them and we'll share them with the speakers and try to respond in other ways.
Thank you, everybody. Really grateful for everyone's intention here. And we'll be sharing the links for the resources that have been collected here and to all registered folks, including a recording. And please stay in touch, bpf.org. Thank you so much for Pro Bono, ASL, and our interpreters. Thank you, Candy Martinez, for your support. Thank you to all amazing speakers. Thank you, my co-director, Kate, for pulling us all together in such a critical time. You're all welcome to come off mute if you're able to. I'll try to enable that and just say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gratitude.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Salamat.